This is where the fun begins. We continue the prequel tropes as per usual.
It is the most quotable, but welcome back, everybody, to another happy landing. I look ridiculous because I woke up, Tanner and I had a whole debacle getting this show going today, but we're here. So this episode, I think we should just dive right into it because we'll let it go the way it is. Next week, we are officially starting our rewatch. So next week will be a review of A Phantom Menace, which will be fun. We'll just we'll get to sit down and start with some of the best. But we wanted to do a pre-ranking, so that's what we're here to start with, is a pre-ranking without having the rewatch. Obviously, we've seen a few things. We've seen Mandalorian and things like that, and we are including both Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian, all the sequels, everything like that. The only things we're not including are kind of the whack stuff. We're not going to do the Clone Wars movie. We're not going to do, not the animated one. We're not going to do the holiday special as much as I want to, but
that is not happening.
There's
no
might,
way.
And this is just if we have time, because it'll be part of the review, but we did talk, we might watch some of the documentaries along with them, so we can bring that up in the conversation, but they won't be separate videos. So we'll have a good few topics. If there's ever anything news-wise or books we finish, we'll touch on those at the top of the show before we get into a longer review, which we're going to do briefly right now before we get into our list. So, both Tanner and I have finished the two Padme books, A Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril, and we've started the EU Thrawn trilogy is what we're going to start, and we may start and stop for books like the Padme book that might amp up our viewing, like a Catalyst, which amped up my viewing of Rogue One when I read it. So real quick, Tanner, what were your thoughts on both Padme books?
Honestly, I am amazed as to how great of a time that we had, or that I personally had with that book. Holy cow, dude.
I agree.
Like, right as we were getting in and talking about this, I was looking up a couple, like, different lists online of, like, people's rankings or other, like, good books from the Star Wars universe. And the Padme Amidala book was actually showing up. It wasn't, like, top, but it was always showing up on each one of the lists. And I'm like, huh, that's fascinating. I never would have thought that would have been, like, one of the books that people really were, like, raving about. But, dude, no joke. Like, I went in and I was like, okay, it's probably going to be, it's gonna be good. It'll maybe add a few, like, nice little treats here and there for a little Phantom Menace. But, dude, I had such a good time reading these books. It was so good. Oh, my gosh, I was so pumped about it.
I was shocked at how much I loved it. Padme has always been a character I've loved from nostalgia, but I have not necessarily loved as much as, like, Leia.
Right.
Or honestly, even Rey at the start. I mean, Rey dipped because of the poor movie that is The Rise of Skywalker, but I've always loved Padme quite a bit, but just didn't have as much of draw. But now it's completely changed. I absolutely loved her. The first book, The Queen's Shadow, takes place. It's after episode 2, isn't it? Or is it just before episode 2?
Just before episode 2. She
Yes,
had just become a senator, and in episode 2, she is a senator.
Yeah, and then the
fun fact, actually, about that is at the end of A Queen's Shadow, it leads directly into them coming back into Coruscant on the J Star Cruiser.
This. And then the third book, because it's a trilogy, I assume will take place leading up to her death in Revenge of the Sith, which would be really interesting. That comes out this November, I believe. But
I think
and then the Queen's Peril comes out. Takes place about her becoming queen, and I adored them both so much. I think I actually ended up liking the Queen's Peril slightly more. Which one did you like slightly more?
I think I liked funny and I don't know. Honestly, they're kind of equal because initially I thought I was like, I like I like Shadow a little bit more because it feels like an extension of Clone Wars. We're starting to get a little bit more of like that. We never really get a lot of like build up of like it's basically she's queen, she's senator, and the Queen's Peril is she's really trying to figure out like what she wants to do, and then is like all of a sudden thrust into being a senator, and she's like, oh yeah, obviously this really makes like this makes the most sense for someone like me to be in, and this is something I really, really like. And then we get in the Clone Wars, there's a lot like this established relationship between Bail Organa and Mon Mothma that are already with her. Obviously, as we've known as an audience, they seem a lot like like-minded characters and that they would get along with each other. But it really kind of establishes where they get their beginnings, and that was a nice little connection that we get between it all. But circle back to Queen's Peril. Oh man, dude, just like the little like ins and outs of all of the her handmaids and all like the interplay that's happening there, and then also like there's like Daddy One Kenobi shows up in there, little Darth Maul action. Oh baby, I am
there's some
there.
Cool character moments, and there's really cool stuff with Palpatine and him being behind the shadows that you can get in a book. Right. What is the main handmaiden's name? I can't remember. It's
Sabe.
Starts Sabe. That's right. So Sabe is the character played by Keira Knightley, who you get a tiny bit of in Attack of the Clones, and she dies. And they flesh her out so much, and I love it. I love it. And the reason I give Peril the edge over Queen Shadow is because I think it dove a little bit more into the handmaids, and I liked those stories. And man, they tease some cool stuff. I mean, there is interesting layers to Padme. There's some sexual tension between her and her handmaidens, including Sabe, and there's some connections there, and there's teases. Is Padme bisexual? Like, as we know she gets with Anakin, but there is some interesting stuff, and it really fleshes her out, and it makes sense that they would be that kind of, the way that Naboo is as a planet makes sense. Yeah. They really dive into how she acts, how they act. You get a lot of Plo Koon, which is really cool. Some cool stuff with him. And,
wait, Plo Koon?
No, I messed up the name, didn't I? Who's the guard? Plo Koon's the Jedi. I'm an idiot. Who's
Oh gosh, Tonrak?
No, I'm thinking of the main guy.
Gosh, I'm totally spacing out on the name.
It doesn't matter. It's the main guy.
Right
we'll know the second we watch Phantom Menace because he's in it.
Yeah, right.
They go through. There's a really cool moment with a young Anakin, and it's just one line about Anakin seeing an angel, and that's all you get for that moment she's off of the planet, and it's cool. There's some cool stuff in these books. I really loved all of the like coming of age part of Peril, as well as then into Shadow, kind of even getting into that more with their what it means to have power, what it means to be a senator, what it means to care for each other, what this handmaiden lifestyle that Naboo has means.
Right.
And honestly, my favorite parts of both books was this sexual tension between Padme and some of the handmaidens and how they dealt with it, as well as boys coming into the picture at certain times. And it was just really interesting, and I really, really liked these novels. Do you have anything else to say on them?
Oh gosh, I was actually gonna ask, like, what was there any particular moments during either one of the books that were like moments that like really stuck out to you, or just like fun little moments that you had in it?
The Daddy One Kenobi obviously sticks out. That's my boy. That's my boy. I've always loved Obi-Wan. And Maul's scenes are cool.
I was texting you, I was messaging you at that point in time, and I was like, let me know when you get a little bit later in the book, because like I read that moment and I was geeking out, and I was so excited for when you came up to that moment. And I wanted to text you so bad about it, but I knew that I knew that you were a little behind on it. So
it's a cool moment. There's a club scene in Peril that I really liked. I thought the club scene, Padme kind of going out, a little fun on the town. I thought That was a really cool scene. It showed a lot of, it's a little bit of the trope in Hollywood of, the princess sneaks out, gets in trouble, but it really fleshed out some characters in that club scene with the handmaids that I really, really liked.
Man,
what about you?
I did not expect it to go as far into episode 1. I thought the cutoff mark was going to be the beginning of episode 1, but they straight up go through the entire thing up into the end. I mean, it makes sense. It's like anybody that's reading this book at this point has watched episode 1. So, I mean, it's going to be something that you launch into.
It makes me, I don't say this often, it makes me super excited to watch Phantom Menace because I'm going to now be paying more attention to the handmaidens and their names and all of the generals around. Like, I am pumped to watch it this week. Like, I'm so glad we ended up doing this to kind of amp up our experience. This is what the fun of being a deep nerd Star Wars fan is, who do read the books. No, the movie should never have to rely on the novels, but if they can amp up your experience like a catalyst, these books I would highly recommend. They are some of my favorite in Star Wars I have read. I immediately texted my brother's girlfriend because I know she is such a fan of Padme, big Star Wars geek. And I texted her, was like, hey, I know you've got a million books because she's always reading, but I was like, these two I think you will absolutely adore, and you should really check them out. They were just that good.
There was two moments that really stuck out in my head. Actually, there was a bunch, but some of the big moments that I remembered. One was Princess Leia in the end of A Queen's Peril. Snippet there at the end, as like I was really surprised that they went into that one, but I really, really, really liked that. As it's like running through the process of like, yeah, we just won and blew up the Death Star, but we have an entire planet that's gone, and my adopted parents are gone, and everything that I was going to be is like just been cut away. That was a really, really excellent moment. Seeing Clovis and Lady Bonteri, that are major characters in the Clone Wars for a couple of episodes, was really cool to see those come back and have them introduced. Man, I got weirdly emotional with why am I forgetting her name? Anakin's mom.
Shmi
Skywalker. There we go. There's a scene in Queen's Peril with Shmi Skywalker as she's looking over Anakin as he's being wheeled away from a pod race crash. And there's, I don't know, it's just this like really touching moment of this like mother and her concern for her child, and then Anakin goes up and it's like, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm fine." And it's like, oh, you're killing me, please.
There is a cool moment where Padme is in there kind of thinking about Anakin and how he should be in bed, and it plays weird, but I liked that because it's a weird thing George set up in that first movie with the age gap, and so it was interesting. I really like the book. I highly recommend it. Tanner does as well. But should we move on to our list now, sir?
Heck yeah, my guy.
All right, we'll start from the bottom and head up, or do you want to start at the top and head down?
That's an odd one, because I got a feeling that our tops are going to be pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
But our bottom's going to be a bit different.
Let's do bottom. Let's start with the fun.
Yeah, let's do bottom.
Okay, so we'll go back and forth here. So we're ranking 14 items here, because it's all 9, including Rogue One, Solo, Mandalorian, Clone Wars, and Rebels. We'll give a quick little reason why, maybe ask a question or two, and whatnot. So, Tanner, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What do you have as your 14th? What is last place in the Star Wars universe?
Last place for me would be Attack of the Clones. That is one of the hard
films.
It's again, I've got like I've talked about. It's got moments that I love in it, but man, just dealing with some of the dialogue in that movie is so rough. Which sucks because there's so much excellent world building and like base build. Also, not to mention, there's so many action sequences that are shot in that. I just don't know what the reasoning behind shooting them the way that they was done. But again, worst because of mostly because of just the script is so damn rough and awkward at times. But yeah. Anyways, that's my number 14.
My last play, and remember, we're doing this with not having rewatched all the films in a hot minute or the shows. I mean, Mandalorian obviously is going to be the freshest thing in our head, but this was the point to then get a rewatch and re-rank at the end of it. My last place is Rise of Skywalker. I really don't like the movie. I think everything Tanner just said about Attack of the Clones applies to this movie. I think there are some cool moments. I like the mind fight, amping up again what Rian Johnson came up with. I like that. I like when I do, because I'm such a fan of anime and the trope of the hero showing up at the last second. I do really like when all the people show up, and even though it's cheesy, I do kind of like the line of, they're just people. I just wish we had actually seen the people instead of just Wedge, which was cool, but I just don't like it. When I think of, if you were to ask me, if I spun a wheel and I had to watch whatever Star Wars movie it landed on, I wouldn't groan on any of them except for probably Rise of Skywalker. I might have a flinch at Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace, but I can't stand Rise of Skywalker. I hate some of the dialogue. Somehow Palpatine returned. And everyone's like, okay. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. JJ, you made a horrible movie. And I love you, JJ. But this is the point of art. You have to take some criticism, and it's awful. I can't even watch. Sometimes I try to go back and watch my review of it, which we shot right after seeing it, and I can't watch it because I'm so depressed in that movie. I understand people love it. I understand a new generation was introduced with this. Same I was with the prequels. There are good things in it. I'm going to give it its fair rewatch. I mean, I saw it 4 times in the theaters. It's still Star Wars. But I think when it comes down to its structure, and I don't have the nostalgia for it, it's last for me. What do you have at
number
13?
13, Rise of Skywalker, for all of the same reasons.
So we're
got
flopping.
some good...
I have Attack of the Clones at 13.
Oh, funny. Yeah, but seriously, I mean, all the same reasons. It's got some good moments, but they're just few and far between. And the core story of it, I think, is to be honest, I think the core story of it is probably worse than Attack of the Clones. But
I'd agree.
I would say that the acting and the dialogue that we get in Rise of Skywalker is better.
I'd agree. And for Attack of the Clones, that's the second movie. This movie, JJ promised, was going to bring closure to 9 films, and it doesn't. It doesn't at all. And it's bad. I put Attack of the Clones here, and I used to go back and forth a lot with The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones until Rise of Skywalker. The one thing that I just love, even though it's so cheesy, is I love, because as a kid, I just lost my absolute mind when Yoda takes his little cloak off and pulls out his lightsaber for the first time, and they have that fight. Is it wacky and ridiculous? Yes, but I was 12, and it was really cool watching Yoda fight Dooku, and so I very much enjoyed that aspect, so that's why I'm going to continue to give it the slight edge, because I would rather watch that scene than anything in Rise of Skywalker. Probably.
Oh, God.
So I'm going to guess we have the same 12.
I don't know if we do, actually.
It's not a
my 12
Menace?
is Solo.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems harsh.
I am not. I'm just, again,
harsh.
There's, the train scene is fun. There's a couple other of, great moments. Alden Ehrenreich as Solo. I love him as Solo.
Glover
but
as well, obviously.
It takes, this movie, I feel like, takes way too much of a dump on Solo as a character, unfortunately. Between it, just cheapens the relationship between Chewbacca. Everything that Solo gets, or that makes him his character, is someone else's thing. It's nothing that he really comes up on his own. He's not really a good pilot. The ship itself is a good pilot, and I'm just not crazy about. There's some fun action sequences and some great acting and some really cool actors. Also, him being like tied into the rebellion and like so early on, I was really hoping more for him to just be like, he's a scoundrel at this point, you know? Like, this is him getting into just being the scoundrel, and that's what he's doing. Those are my main problems with it. Is it still a fun Star Wars movie? Yes. And that's why it is not lower on the list.
When we review Solo, I know Lawrence Kasdan and his son put out a huge Reddit thread back in the day of all of the things that and problems that went into Solo. So that'll be, honestly, the Solo video might be our most fun, and it might go 2 hours. Because we have so much to talk about outside of just the movie when we dive into it, because there's so much to behind the scenes of that film. They put out a huge, or maybe it was a Twitter thread, huge thread of all this stuff that was they didn't want or the studio made them change. It's nuts. But anyway, my number 12 is Phantom Menace. I used to go back and forth, but that mall scene is amazing. I love Obi-Wan in it. I really like Qui-Gon. I think Qui-Gon is a very, very cool Jedi. They originally wanted him to be Obi-Wan, but I think Ian McGregor was a great pick. There's a lot of campiness. Jar Jar's whack. I get it. The Gungans are whack. But when it comes down to the prequels, that one I put over Attack of the Clones just because. And Duel of the Fates might be one of the top 5, which we should make so like good. A top 5 scores in Star Wars. But the Duel of the Fates is just so good. I really do love that final battle, and the Naboo stuff. That fight is good for me. I like it. So I end up having a really fun and I think Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith are the 2 most quotable of the 3, and I think Attack of the Clones is the least quotable, which is another reason I put Phantom Menace over it.
Right.
So what do you have for 11 then, Phantom Menace?
For number 11, you are gonna hate me.
Wow,
The Last Jedi.
Phantom Menace high. Wow. That has to be all nostalgia for Phantom Menace being over The Last Jedi. And you must really hate what happened to Luke.
I'm just, well, again, like we were talking about before this show, the bottom section of this is really hard for me. In these, Phantom Menace and The Last Jedi are constantly rotating for me. And I am not a fan, I'm not the biggest fan of how they treated Luke in that movie, and I think there are some exceptionally just boring and dumb moments that occur in it. Mostly, the space scene chase. Canto Bight, not fun. I know a lot of people, one of the major criticisms that always pops up for that one is people automatically going to the whole Leia thing, and a good friend of ours was talking about, like, there's no inclination of Leia being a Force user at all in any of the other movies, and I'm like, have you even paid attention to
Well, you clearly didn't watch
5?
Yeah, or 6.
Or 6?
She literally senses what happens.
Right. It makes sense, but anyways, my point with that being is that there is more there is more bad in that movie for me, at least how some things were handled, than there is good. I am wildly curious. I do actually think that there's a distinct possibility The Last Jedi will wind up higher. I don't know, much higher, but it will wind up higher on this list.
It'll be a fun discussion. I want to say this, though. This is important, because I also don't really like Canto Bight. I would watch Canto Bight on loop to not watch Rise of Skywalker. It's how much I can't stand Rise of Skywalker. My number 11, which I know this will probably change, is the Clone Wars TV show. And it's just because, this is my simple rationale for Tanner here. It's because I've only watched the ending in so long. I haven't sat down and rewatched it in so long, unlike Rebels, that I have Clone Wars in this spot. It will most likely change, and one of the things that is a struggle with the TV shows, at least the 2 animated ones, is there are episodes that are very clearly for kids. And it's hard to watch those episodes because they're very clearly for children.
Yes.
And it's not fun to watch those episodes. But So that's where it is right now. I love the Clone Wars. I mean, Tanner and I love Star Wars. We love everything. There's something in all these things we don't like as much that we find enjoyable. But Clone Wars is here right now. It will probably change after the rewatch, but it is simply because it's not fresh in my mind at this point.
Fair. That makes sense. Number 10, Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is, again, like, these are my low-level tier of movies that I'm, like, constantly jostling back and forth as to, like, which one I like the least, which sucks because, again, like I've said so many times, there's something in every single Star Wars movie that is good to pull. But, I guess for Phantom Menace, it's, like, one of my biggest criticisms that I have to level to it is, like, there really is no main character. But, which really kind of stinks. But for some of the criticisms, I know a lot of people level at it, like pod racing. I love the pod racing scenes.
Awesome. It's awesome.
It's so unnecessary, but God, do I love the pod race scene.
It's working. It's working.
Dude, when their escape from Naboo, when they're running around and all of a sudden they have to, like, wind up on Tatooine. Also, why am I forgetting his name? Plays Qui-Gon Jinn. It's
Liam Neeson.
Yes, Liam Neeson. There we go. Dang it.
He's great.
Man, had some of these questions actually popped up on the trivia, then.
Yeah, Kyle. Don't pick all of Tanner's stupid, deep, nerd, mechanical questions.
Or species questions. Don't forget
What
those.
is the inscription on the TIE fighter that was flown in episode 7? Blah, 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 blah. It's ridiculous.
Anyways,
sir.
Phantom Menace, the pod racing scene, I absolutely love. The fight scene, Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, while I think at times is overly flashy and a little overly choreographed, is still amazing. And Duel of the Fates is one of the best John Williams scores that he's produced. It's, oh man, I think I just have more good to say, even though there's a lot of bad in the Phantom Menace.
I'm literally sitting here hearing the I'm hearing the score in my head. I'll say this about the choreography. I really like the very insane choreography of the prequels, and I always was on the camp of, I always agreed they're a little over choreographed in the prequels. The original's a little under choreographed. Maybe not. Return of the Jedi probably has the best saber fight. But when we get to the sequels, we end up just getting jabs. And it's a little bit of a bummer because Rey's real only move is jabbing through most of the entire trilogy. And Kylo's main move is pushing the jab out of the way. And it's just a bit of a bummer.
Well, that's funny.
Such fans of samurai lore and things like that. And they do have some really cool fights, and I think they get better. But she gets a lot of flack for just jabbing.
That's really funny that you say that because honestly, I actually prefer
the jabbing?
No, not the jabbing. There's some of the fight scenes that happen in the sequel, particularly the throne room and also the forest fight scenes.
The throne room is the best fight scene in all of the sequels.
It's amazing.
Not even close.
But I personally love. I think I like the forest scene a little bit more because it feels like a knockdown, drag out fight. And also the colors that we get in the snowy forest with the glowing of the lightsabers.
Oh, I agree.
It's awesome. And the thing that I love about those is it amps up the excitement of the lightsaber fights from the original trilogy, but it doesn't overdo it like some of the fight scenes in the prequels do.
Yeah. I get what you mean, but I do love the over choreograph. Is it my turn? Where are we at? I need to do 10?
Your number 10, yes.
My number 10 is Solo, a Star Wars story. I have a lot of fun with Solo. I don't go back and rewatch it a whole bunch, but I really like Solo. I know it has a bunch of problems. I think all of the acting is really, really great. I do think there are moments where you do start to see his elite piloting come into play. And I do think I enjoy seeing how he became the scoundrel he did and the betrayals that made Han. There are some things I don't like. I can't stand L3. I like L3 being in the computer or in the Falcon's main navigation system, but I cannot stand the free the droids thing. Not that I think it was just horribly written. I think it could have worked if they had just made it better. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge to death. I love Fleabag. Her show is awesome. She did a great job in the mocap, but that character is just obnoxious from start to finish. It's so annoying. And I didn't mind the Lando kind of feeling, having those feelings for a droid. I think that makes sense. But man, it's such an annoying droid. She is by far my least favorite droid in all of Star Wars. It's not like I would rather hang out with Chopper because at least Chopper does something at some point.
Right.
But what do you have at 9, sir?
Number 9 is Rebels.
That's where my number 9 is. What?
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Number 9. I wish I could put it up higher on this list because it's got a lot of amazing and incredible moments. But
Same.
like you're talking about, it's like I think it is weighted down by some of the more like getting into that show initially in the beginning for me is a little rough. But once it like gets its gears, once it shifts, you're like, yes, I'm there. And
they start very childish early. I
Right.
think that show ends up having way more child episodes than it does having just good episodes that everybody can love. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I completely agree with you. The extra building and also the fact that it does have Thrawn is amazing. Though by the end, I feel as though the way that they use Thrawn I'm not super crazy about, but it's just amazing to have him as a villain that's in there.
Speaking of Thrawn, real quick, Benedict Cumberbatch was asked if he would play Thrawn in The Mandalorian,
Yes.
and he said, no, I do not want to be blue. And I get it, Benedict. He would have been a great Thrawn. But Benedict is also, real quick side note, he has been in a lot of huge franchises. And I honestly think he's just a little burnt out. He still has to do Doctor Strange a bunch. I think he's just saying, look, I've been in Star Trek. I've now been in Marvel so much. I think I just want to chillax, make some World War I and II dramas, and hang out for a bit. But anyway, did you have any quick thoughts on that?
He actually, I think he was quoted as saying that, with the whole Jennifer Lawrence thing being 7 hours to get into the makeup, and then afterwards also dealing with all of the chemicals from it, he flat out came out and said, I just am not in the right place right now to do that.
Yeah.
That's just going to be a flat no for me.
And then Jen Lawrence demanded to get a suit, and guess what? The suit looked like garbage. Anyway, I also have Rebels at number 9. I agree with everything you just said. I love the ending of Rebels. I love the space whales. I'm all for it. I think it's all great. I think they do incredibly unique things with the Force and time and the wills. The Bendu they introduce. It's awesome. I love Rebels. It's a little more fresh in my mind. So I love Rebels. But
yeah.
So what is your number 8, sir?
That would be Revenge of the Sith.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
See, and again, mid-level, this is, when we start with Rebels, this is, my next, tier 2, we'll rewatch, love them, and I've only got, some criticisms to level. For instance, with Revenge of the Sith, just for, initial criticisms, is, again, I think that some of the lightsaber fights, the Mustafar fight, is epic.
That's so cool.
It goes on just for a hair too long and is a bit over choreographed at times.
No. Honestly, it's under choreographed.
Ah, no. It's
add more, George. More.
I'm curious I'm especially curious going through and rewatching it because Revenge of the Sith used to be way higher on my list. Way higher. And then as I got older and watched it more, it slowly creeped down a little bit more. But of the prequels, it is 100% the best. It is excellent.
Not even close.
Oh man. There's I know I had a couple of like specific criticisms that I would level against it, but I'm kind of like forgetting. There was just a few awkward lines that get delivered. Yes. But overall, like, love the movie.
My number 8 is Rogue One, and it's just because I don't really go back and rewatch Rogue One a lot, even though I absolutely love Rogue One. That Vader scene made me lose my absolute mind in the theater. I love the Seven Samurai take. This whole narrative of we don't really know any of the characters. That's Seven Samurai. That's the point. You follow one main person, maybe two, who become friends, and you get a crew around them quickly, and then they save the day. That's the story of the Seven Samurai, and that is what Rogue One is. It's awesome. George liked it. I like it. I think it leads into A New Hope beautifully. Tanner and I have already agreed that week we have to do back-to-back. We have to put Rogue One in and immediately put on A New Hope, even though we have to wait a week to review A New Hope. But
I'm so excited for that.
I love Rogue One. I think they play into each other. Those two play into each other so well. I've read Catalyst, and it really amped up. I saw the movie, read Catalyst, went and saw it again, and it amped up the experience. I really like the relationship with Jyn and her dad. There is a little bit of funky stuff early on, like the whole scene with the creature that like messes with memories that Saw Gerrera does is kind of ridiculous, but
right. Oh, yeah, but Gully, the Bud Gully will get the info.
And I really like Saw Gerrera as a character through Clone Wars and Rebels and everything, but and all the way to Fallen Order. But he is a little funky in that moment. But I really enjoy Rogue One. We're in my top favorites here now. I mean, there's no groaning really much anymore at this point.
Absolutely.
What do you have at 7?
Number 7, Clone Wars. Weirdly, I mean,
good.
it's above Revenge of the Sith. Weirdly enough, the work just purely, your criticisms are completely correct, and in that there are a number of like kiddie episodes, but man, dude, when Clone Wars hits, like, it hits so well, and that's exactly what I wanted from that show. It delivers everything that I want in the moments that it does hit, and that's why it's as high as it is on this list.
Yeah.
Also, not to mention...
Go ahead,
yeah?
go ahead. No, go ahead.
How it treats Anakin, like how it...
Yeah.
It just does him so much better service. And again... like you had previously talked about, like, a movie still needs to stand on its own, and it's, but having the context of Clone Wars and doing that, you start to have a little bit more of the understanding of where Anakin's come from. What has led him to get to this point?
It fleshes him out.
It fleshes him out so well. Also, Obi-Wan
is amazing.
The ending is incredible. Like, no joke, it's like watching a 2-hour movie of Star Wars, and it's one of the best Star Wars movies I've watched.
The scene with Darth Maul, where he knows what's happening, and when he's, like, screaming and yelling like, you've killed us all, and you sit back and you go, no, he knows what is about to happen, because he was supposed to be part of this plan, it's so good. But anyway, you were going to say something about Obi-Wan?
And also, like, the way that they... Daddy One Kenobi. The fleshing out that we get. But honestly, one of my favorite parts of the Clone Wars doesn't even have to deal with any of the prequel characters. It has to deal with the clones. The way that they flesh those clones out and really give each one of them individually their own personality that you get connected to is insane. The fact that they were even able to accomplish that.
To the point where then they show up, a few of them, in Rebels, you lose your mind because you're so pumped. To the point where they make the Bad Batch in one episode, in like 3 episodes, you want a whole show about them because they're just that good at making you care about the clones. It's just true. They fly now? Yes, they've flown always. Some stupid line. Anyway, my number 7 is Revenge of the Sith, best of the prequels. Everything Tanner said, it might have the best opener in Star Wars. The opening fight is awesome. It gets a little campy with the droids, Anakin shooting them off, but it's that first shot is so cool where we're right into it. We're right into a fight. I like the Count Dooku fight. I like Count getting killed there. Grievous being kind of thrusted in out of nowhere. I even remember as a kid being like, who the heck is this guy? Where's this guy been? Clearly George also didn't have a huge plan, but it's the most quotable of all the movies by far, and it's got
that
some really
opening
great
scene where the Star Destroyer starts to like come straight into frame, and then you just get the big deepy bass drums, just doom, 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 doom. Oh,
great.
So good.
I really do think John Williams put in a lot into those prequels, more than the sequel. And the sequel, I actually do think he put in quite a bit on the first two, but I think by the time you get to Rise of Skywalker, he was like, I'm so sick of these Star Wars movies, especially because they just made another trash one.
Right.
But,
well, I mean, also not to mention, I mean, wouldn't you agree that, like, there's, like, one or two themes that it takes a minute for me to remember, but then I'm like, oh, I remember that. Like, Rey's theme is something that pops into my head.
There are two from the prequels or the sequels that I love. I think Rey's theme is awesome, and I can't remember the title of it, but it plays in The Last Jedi. I believe it's the throne room, and they play it in the trailer, and it is great. It's got the big drums.
It's like the reprise. Is that the reprise of the main theme? It's like the bum bum bum, and then like the dun dun dun. Yeah.
It's great. Those are the two that stick out to me the most of the sequels. But I can point out many moments in the prequels that are awesome, including the start scene. I love Revenge of the Sith. If you're gonna get, like, when you sit down and go, man, I want to watch Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith is always one that pops in my head and says, I want to watch this one. Like, because it's so fun to watch. It's just fun. It's a fun movie. But anyway, what do you have for 6?
For 6, I have Force Awakens.
I also have Force Awakens 6!
Let's go! Yeah, it's, I know a lot of people still level the criticism of it, that it's a remake of New Hope.
It is.
And it's the safe hitter. It's the dude. I'm not much of a sports guy, but it's the dude that that you send up to the plate that's gonna get the job done. Like they're just gonna they're not gonna make the home run, but they're gonna deliver a good hit just to get some points in. And
look at you using a sports analogy.
I know. Weirdly enough, baseball, I've watched baseball a couple times in person. Love going to baseball games in person.
Let's go to a Mariners game, huh? I don't care about baseball, but I do love going to a game.
Although, dude, anyway. I'm beyond stoked for March Madness this year. Woo! Anyways, so getting to it, Force Awakens. Dude, it just like, the feelings that you get when you see the Falcon again. It's like seeing an old friend all over again from your childhood.
Really was.
And you're like, oh, man. And also, like, we get the heartfelt moments. Oh, my God, like, tears flowing down my face seeing Han Solo and Chewbacca, like, step back onto the Falcon. And it's like, hey, we're home. And I'm like, they're home. Oh, God, it's so good.
One of the few moments I like in Rise of Skywalker is Han being a vision for Kylo, even though that was taken from the Duel of the Fate script. But I also have Force Awakens. Force Awakens is in my top 4, because there's only 4, but top 4 best theater experiences ever. The first It was amazing to be in the theater for. It was incredible how much fun that was. And then Infinity War and Endgame. And Endgame takes the number 1 spot, but The Force Awakens was always number 1 until I saw Endgame, because you could just... Star Wars was back. We never thought we were going to get this. And where I give JJ a lot of criticism on 9, I give him a lot of praise on 7. And I think that yes, we don't get anything super different in it. It is a carbon copy, although Episode 4 was nominated for like 9 Oscars. Where are my Oscar nominations for you, Force Awakens? But I think what it does correct is it ushers in the new wave very well. And it
Yes.
took a lot of risks. I mean, the leads are a woman and 2 minority men. That's not something we've seen in Star Wars. I love the stuff with Han. I think it's the best in Star Wars humor. I think The Last Jedi has very good Star Wars humor, but I think it does miss the mark on some spots. And I think Rise of Skywalker has almost no Star Wars humor. Which is ridiculous that JJ can make a great one and such a horrible one. But the theater experience was so great. It really it's perfect. I don't think if you go back and do a new trilogy and had they done something wildly different, you get the same reaction and feeling that The Force Awakens gives you. And I think you want that feeling. Rey is very likable. Finn's very likable. Poe's awesome. And Poe's not even in the movie that much. He introduces a new droid. It is such great Star Wars humor. It's so fun in the theater. I think it's amazing. It is a carbon copy, but I really like it. I know George doesn't like it, but I really like Force Awakens, and I think it did a lot right. What do you have? It was
such a good setup. But anyways, moving on to number 5. And this one, I think this one might change, but there's 2 particular things in it that I just absolutely adore. But Rogue One is actually my number 5.
Love Rogue One.
Love Rogue One. Now, there's 2 scenes, there's 2 or 3 moments in particular that I just adore. And have almost like I've watched those particular scenes probably like 50 plus times. Yeah. And
great droid. K2SO great.
Oh, K2SO is amazing. One of my favorite parts of it. But my only criticism is sometimes the pacing is a little quick in the beginning. It's like, okay, we're jumping like sometimes I feel like I'm flying at the seat of my pants, and I'm not. I can't really catch up to where we're at because it's like we're going from planet to planet to planet to planet to planet to planet. But then once we get to that final, like, okay, we're going to Scarif, and dude, the entire Scarif fight scene might be my number 1 favorite space fight scene of all time.
It's a legit great space battle. It's the closest of the sequels to paying homage to the space to then land. I wish they had made it Akbar. It was supposed to be Akbar, and I do like is it Admiral Raddus? Mm-hmm. I do like Raddus a lot, but I think Akbar would have been better. I remember they had a dumb reason for not doing him, but I agree.
Yeah. Also the Vader scene.
Too good. My number 5 is, talking about that Vader scene, is The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian is incredible. I think it deserves top 5. The Luke Skywalker thing at the end of the last season is amazing. I think it handles nostalgia, humor, battle sequences are awesome. I think from top to bottom it's great with a unique story without giving too much away. I think it is incredible. It is the best thing the sequels have really given us, I think, in a chronological storytelling order. But what do you have for 4?
Number 4, The Mandalorian. It gave me I asked for a space western, a bounty hunter space western, and I got exactly that.
And that's what they said it was going to be. They're like, we're going to make a bounty hunter sandbox space western, and everyone and the people who don't like it were like, I didn't want that. I didn't ask for that. And they're like, that's what we told you we're going to give you. It's like
right.
It's like me saying, here's your birthday cake, and you're like, I wanted cupcakes. Get the heck out of here.
Yeah. Not only did they deliver, like, oh man, they delivered everything that I wanted and then some past that. It just knocked the whole thing out of the park. Some slower, like not as like fun episodes that happened during it, but my God, just the package as a whole is a masterpiece.
And their attention to detail in everything Star Wars is amazing. The fact that they look at Rogue One and go, man, let's recreate that smoke shot with Luke. Like, let's do it. The one it's going to be awesome. It'll play homage to his father. It'll be really, like, it's pure fun. It is Star Wars at its best, which is pure fun. And it is awesome. My number 4 is Return of the Jedi. I love... Oh, yeah, you know where it's going. I love Return of the Jedi. I love Return of the Jedi. I think it is a little more campy for the 3. I think it's got a great space battle. It's got, yes, the second Death Star is a little whack, but if you read the novel, you get deep into the novels, he was going to build an army of Death Stars. But I love it. I love all the stuff with Lando. I love the opener in Jabba's palace. The fight is awesome. The fact that George wrote or helped write the line with Obi-Wan's taught you well when he jumps up, and then later is like, we're gonna make that the high ground. Like, I love it. I love Return of the Jedi. Luke is very awesome in Return of the Jedi that people don't give him enough credit for, because you see that he has learned everything from Empire Strikes Back, and that's where, again, this is where Rise of Skywalker sucks, because Rey doesn't learn anything from the other 2 movies, and it's stupid. Where Luke, even with the Ewoks, where yes, the Ewoks are whack, yes, it would have been cool if they were Wookiees, I like the Ewoks, but the fact that Luke goes, hey guys, let's just play this out. Let's see what these guys are about. There's more here. And he learned that from Yoda, because he judged Yoda too quickly and too much on somebody being so small and frail, and they end up being the biggest ally. And I think it's just awesome. I love Return of the Jedi. So what do you have at... are we on 3 for you?
Number 3, Return of the Jedi.
Your top 3 is the originals.
Oh yeah. Return of the Jedi, it would probably be higher than A New Hope if it wasn't for the Ewoks.
Love the Ewoks.
if it was an entire planet of Wookiees, come on, man. That would have been so cool if they had gone to Kashyyyk or made Andor the home planet of for the Wookiees. Woo!
You sound like me with the Duel of the Fates script.
I know, but I mean, with that being said, the fight scenes on Andor that we get with all the AT-STs walking around and just blasting away at things, the Ewoks coming in to like save the day with primitive technology is still pretty fun. Oh gosh. But dude, like the space fight scene, we see the Executor, the second Death Star run, but most importantly, like you've talked about, that entire throne room scene is just chef's kiss. Best part of that movie. And also, not to mention, like, Jabba's palace, going to Tatooine, that was fun. I really enjoyed that, being able to... It was just a fun little Star Wars... It's a fun Star Wars romp to, like, rescue Han, and that's really great.
And it opens up with Luke being a Jedi. He's not really... He's not a Jedi in the first 2 movies, and we finally get to see him as a Jedi. Which leads me into... Go ahead.
Before we get into that, just overall, an amazing ending to the trilogy, I still think.
Yeah, so getting into that, my number 3 is The Last Jedi. And I will give a quick reasons why, but I do agree I don't like Canto Bight. I think he was trying to pay homage to the prequels and it just didn't work out. It's not very fun and campy, and I don't really love the love story with Rose and Finn, although I love Rose. I think Rose is a great character. Kelly Marie Tran is amazing. And I did not... I get that we've only seen Luke be Luke in one movie, really, where he's a strong Jedi. People wanted that in the sequels, even Mark. We didn't get it. And I went in, remember thinking, because so many people were saying, like, this could happen, this, and this. And I was like, I want to go in with just none of this. Like, I'm going to go in expecting none of this to happen. And so I got what I was thinking outside of the one thing I was pretty sure was going to happen in that movie, because the biggest thing was who's Rey's parents. And I was like, she's going to be no one. I think it's the best story, and she is no one, and that is why the movie sells for me more than anything, because I think Rey's development in that movie is amazing. She is on her way to being the avatar of Star Wars, to be a perfect piece to pick up the mantle, and then JJ ruined it. And I get you don't like The Last Jedi, not meaning Tanner, I mean just people in general, the people who don't. And I still believe the percentage is higher that people who do like it. I just think the people who don't are louder. But I think if JJ doesn't ruin it, Like, it should not take us 3 movies to answer that question. Ask the question, answer the question, then develop from there. It shouldn't take 3 movies, but and I like the Luke stuff because I do think it makes sense. I think it makes sense in the position Luke is in to go, wait a minute, all this crazy stuff, I need to back out of here because the real way to get peace is to not have the Jedi. And I love the scene with Yoda. I just love it all. I do agree it is a little ridiculous that he thinks about killing his nephew, but I think that makes for a much better, interesting character and story overall. I think Ryan wrote the best Star Wars movie of the sequels. I think in order, I think it plays so well off of 7, and I just really like it. I've rewatched it a ton. I like it every time I watch it. I just enjoy it. It's a top 3 for me. It's been a top 3 for a long time. Will this rewatch change that? I don't know. I'm excited. I've never rewatched them in an order like this in a long time, so I'm excited to do that. But right now, it is my 3rd. I adore it. I didn't grow up with Luke the same way. I grew up with a lot more with Anakin because I was a prequel kid. But
right.
So I just didn't have that die-hard crazy feelings about Luke. Yes, it would have been cool to see him rip a Star Destroyer out of the sky, but I also got to see him do something with the Force I've never seen, which was new and interesting and cool.
To anyone also, but I mean, like, on the flip side of that, it's like, to anyone that really wanted to see Luke do that, that's not going to be that. If you wanted that, then the movie should have been created in the 90s. That when we or still during the 80s. There's no way that you have a new sequel with completely new characters, then you have the legacy characters completely overshadowing them and pulling down a Star Destroyer. It's not something you do.
Yeah.
But
and I would
anywho,
have loved if they did it. If they did that, I would have lost my mind too. Because I went into the movie saying, I want a good movie and a great story that continues what I love about Star Wars. And I got what I wanted. It's a bummer some people didn't, but that's where I'm at. So, should we move on to 2 and we'll get into a huge Last Jedi discussion in the upcoming months here?
Oh man, I'm so excited when we get to that point.
Me too. So what do you have at 2?
Number 2, with a button. That would be A New Hope.
All right, so we have the same top 1 and 2.
We have the same top 2.
And then Empire Strikes Back. I do have a question. For me, these 2 are 1A, 1B, and sometimes I do put A New Hope 1. Does that ever happen for you, or are you very stuck with Empire?
Empire, right there, with a button. Right there.
Yeah. And I get
A New Hope,
I get it.
Yes. A New Hope kicked everything off, and from top to bottom, it's such a fun experience, and I love it. But it's just, Empire took it to a place that I didn't expect, made me feel things that I'd never thought that I would feel like that. The twist is amazing, and also, it does something that I love in a lot of movies, because a lot of people don't want to see this, but the bad guys win.
Last Jedi.
Oh, man.
Yep.
More like the bad guys stuck out in the middle of a field going, no! But anyways.
Well, he still won. I agree. I think I've seen A New Hope more than any of these outside of maybe Revenge of the Sith. I've probably seen the most, but I love A New Hope. It resonated with me when I saw it as a kid. It resonated again as a teenager. I'm that kid who feels like life is not going the way I want. I'm constantly looking at the horizon. And then Empire off of that is such a good play because then he goes through a lot of dark stuff and a lot of bad things, and it's reflective of life, and just great. It's great storytelling, and I love them both. The twist is amazing, and yes, he shot Episode 4 as if it was a one-off movie. He was not expecting to make more. He was expecting it to flop to the point where him and Steven went to Hawaii and didn't pay attention to what was going on when the movie came out, and that's where they came up with Indiana Jones, because he was so scared that this was going to be such a horrendous flop, and then like Close Encounters came out. Both of those movies were amazing. Star Wars is honestly, it's probably the greatest. I mean, I do believe it's the greatest story ever told. I do. I think it is the best story. I think George is the best storyteller who has existed. That includes novels, television. Yes, I put it over Lord of the Rings. I get it. I get yelled at by Caleb all the time, our buddy, about it. But I think it's more unique, more interesting, more different, and yet simple and powerful. And the two movies complement each other so well. Really, the three movies do. And I love them. I love both of them in those spots. I love the development.
Dude.
I love the romance. I love all of it.
The Death Star run,
Yes.
some people, I love it. I still absolutely love it. I still think it looks amazing. Does it have like one or two moments where you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of something, but like, dude, just the way that they shot that, like, oh man, I can't tell you how many times I've watched the Death Star run scene of just like seeing the X-Wings pull in formation as they're gliding on down with each other to make their run, and oh man, it's just so good. Also, seeing Han Solo for the first time, oh my god, and Millennium Falcon, god,
it's amazing, and they're both just great. But we're about at time here, so that is our ranking. We will review A Phantom Menace next week. It's going to be fun. We're going to start this official rewatch. So, guys, remember to like, subscribe, share. Put your list below. We'd love to hear your ranking of all the Star Wars films, reasons why. Do you think our lists are absolute travesties? What do you think? Please comment below. Thank you to our patrons, who I forgot to thank in the beginning, and I'm sorry, as well as get some of our merch. I miss the movies. I love this shirt. Go do all that amazing stuff, and for another happy landing, we're out of here.
Bye-bye.
Boom.